All right, we should be live. Hopefully, I'm going to give it a second. We're not doing a countdown timer today. We're testing it out. I think we're live now. Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 115. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And this week, we're taking a deep dive into album artwork and how you can make it on any budget, whether you're a Photoshop pro like Curtis here, or just using your app like me. We'll also discuss some interesting gear upcoming from Randomwaves. And finally, what our Discord has been buzzing about the most, the MLC, or Mechanical Licensing Collective, suing Spotify. Quickly, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat, especially our patrons. Thank you for joining us live. We always love having you here and hearing your opinions on all of this. If you have anything you want to discuss about the MLC or have you suing Spotify or how you do your artwork, let us know in the chat. And if you're watching this back after, we'll have timestamps in the description if there's a specific part you want to go to. Otherwise, just enjoy the ride. Thanks for being here. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today, just Curtis. Eonlake is so burnt out from that album release that no, I'm just kidding. He just misscheduled and bummed out, but we're stoked to have his album out. But Curtis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Doing good. Doing well. The sun is there. I think I've been saying this. The sun is increasingly coming here. So I have forsaken the studio for the last week or so, and I've been out in the sun, been skating and soaking in that vitamin D, which has been nice. So yeah, feeling good. Are
you going to bring your skateboard to Switzerland when we hang out?
I might well do. Yeah, well do.
I can't. I mean, to be fair, I've never even seen you in person, but I can't imagine you skating. So I'm like, just out of curiosity now, I really wanted to see.
It's a really new thing. So I imagine what you've got in your head is something a lot different to the way it is. At the moment, it's still very slow and it's still kind of shaky.
I think actually that's what's in my
Oh, there you go then.
I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome, dude. Are you doing, when you say skate though, skateboard? And if so, longboard, shortboard? What are you doing?
It's cruiser board here, just like halfway between longboard and skateboard.
Nice.
It's nice. It's cool. It's cool.
Cool. I miss skateboarding. In college, I would always longboard. Before that, I had the little like short one, and then my longboard got stolen, and then I never bought another one because I was sad. But yeah, now I don't know. I'd probably just fall off and break my head, but that's all right. One day. I want to say hi to all of our patrons though in the chat, specifically Mike. What's going on? Happy to have you. Abby is in the chat. How are you, Abby? They've been putting out some awesome remixes, I heard recently. Lots of remixes going around right now. And Shady Ridge is in the chat. How are you? Yeah.
Wonderful. Hello to everybody. Yeah, remixes are plenty. It's that time of year. Shady's going on a little bit of a break for summer, as they normally do. It's all hotting up. It's all gonna be great. So yeah, the cycle is continuing, which is always nice. What have you been doing, my brother? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? Lots of video editing, lots of video filming. I did the stem split in Logic. Awesome. So I've got some comparisons, not today and for the video coming out on my channel, but we'll do it here too. But I think it gets pretty close to FL.
Really?
It's definitely okay. Vocal wise, it's the cleanest I've heard. So in comparison to MPC and Koala and MPC were thinking some of those harmonies in Farther were synth. And so it just have these weird comb filters and mutes in parts of the vocals. But on Logic, it knew all of those were the harmonies. And so it wasn't in the melody section. It stayed in the vocal. So it was very cool. Drum wise, it's almost as good as MPC, but not quite. And yeah, I was pretty impressed with it. And then I used it because I made a jam for the video using the stems. And then I realized I wanted to fix and quantize the bass. So I stem split the stem splitted track. Right? Like I made this new track on the SP. Yeah, it's like stemception, but I made a new track on the SP with the stems, and then it was a stereo 2 track when I recorded it. So I was like, shit, I gotta fix the bass. So I stem split that and quantized it, and it was awesome. Yeah, the stem splitter is pretty cool. Still has some artifacts and stuff, but way less than I guess I wasn't. I went in with an empty, low expectations just to see, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good, and looks like Mike, the arbiter of Ableton, downloaded Logic to try out the stem splitter. Whoa. Yeah, he says I feel slightly dirty. That's some serious if Mike is downloading a different DAW, something's up.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
mean,
cool,
if it's
Mike.
not able
I'm
to.
glad. It's good to check out all of it. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Shall we get into some gear though? Because this is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Let's, you brought this to the table. This is small and this is quirky and this is odd. What is it,
Also,
Unwrapper?
low cost, but there's a little bit of a caveat or catch to it. Nothing crazy or anything, but it's going to be a Kickstarter. So I want to give clarity there. You know, with Kickstarters, things can not happen and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's the case here, but just, you know, I'm always mindful of that. But these are some very small, compact little it's a drum and a synth. Drumboy and Synthgirl. And they look pretty cool. The video, we can probably skip around to a few sections just to kind of show it a little bit, Curtis, but uh let's just check out the video real quick first, and then I'll read off some of the information about it. And just skip
Okay.
around. I don't know if you got to check out the video yet, but you're the one sharing it. So just, yeah, show a little bit of, I think this is Drumboy, and then Synth Girl
Yeah.
is after that. And if you look on the right side, you'll see kind of like their information.
It's really cute.
Yeah, and then let's go over to, yeah, that's Synth Girl now.
This reminds me of like this little dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute it real quick because we're talking. But yeah, the Synth Girl demo is very like discordant and chaotic. I think it's capable of doing more than that, and I'll read what it's talking about. But I really want to talk form factor and just like look of it. So really quickly, price wise, I'm not sure whether it's for both or each one, but it's going to be a Kickstarter launching soon. I think it said September, $150. And again, I'm not sure if that's for each or together, but I like the price, even if it's for just one of them. It's compact. There's a lot going on with them. Drumboy offers 10 instrument layers, parametric EQ, 2 effects channels, reverb, and more. And then Synthgirl is a wavetable synth with 2 oscillators, and they claim you can create unique and evolving textures, 4 LFOs, 2 effects channels, a reverb engine, and more. So there's a lot packed into these tiny little form factors. That's what I like. It looks pretty interesting. And I really like these small portable pieces of gear. And that's why I wanted to bring this to the table. It seems like these are pretty heavy loaded. And what's even better is that it's open source from the beginning. So they're even saying in the video, you can hack it, you can modulate it, you know, you can do all this stuff. I like to see that. Real quick about the info: ARM Cortex M7 chip, 24-bit audio, 5-inch LCD screen, SD card input, load and store samples and sounds, open source code. Like I was saying, they claim designed with the maker community in mind. They're completely open source, built on the popular STM32 platform, and which can let users hack and customize the firmware. And then they seamlessly sync. I think it's with USB, and they also sync with third-party instruments, they claim. So I think it's just like MIDI and things like that. But looks really cool. Curtis, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's cool. Like anything portable. I've been really intrigued with Atlas Castle's setup recently, because he's got completely doorless, but it can all fit in his backpack, which is kind of, if I was to do doorless, that's kind of how I'd want to do it. And this seems like a nice little nod towards that. You know, you've got a little drum machine, you've got a little synthesizer in there, but it's tiny and it's in your hand. And
Yeah.
I'd have to do a little bit. We'd obviously have to have a little bit of a deep dive on it, but the notion of with these small boxes, usually we find that there is a limitation on them, right? So like in terms of you play with it for a couple of months, but then you kind of exhaust its uses, you kind of get bored and buy something new, right? But this seems to be a bit deeper and more or less superficial than say a Volca, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the touch screen. It seems like a pretty decent size screen for the form factor, which I like. The setup, I think it's just the color scheme and stuff like that, but really reminds me of Bliss apps, who we
Yeah.
cover all the time. Bliss are an amazing software company, but I like that very colorful, vibrant look and all that. It seems like it would be a lot of fun to do sound design. I'd really like to see more of what Synthgirl is capable of, because in that video, it's really just kind of like discordant, like noises and chord sounds and soundscapes and things like that. But I have a feeling it's capable of a lot more than that. And like you're saying, I mean, you said you've been getting outside and stuff. I've been getting outside with gear. Like my whole thing lately has been small, compact setups. So like the SP404 with the power bank and like a Volca or the what is it, the Korg NTS1 or something. So more flexibility in these tiny pieces of gear is very intriguing to me, and that's why I brought it to the table. Mike says small boxes make you think, hey, I'll play that on the couch, bus, beach, etc., but you never do that. I do that. That's how I've been making most of my music. All of the songs I've been making in my videos lately have been Koala at about 11 p.m. just sitting there on the couch. So yeah, which he says speaks the man who lives in sunnier climes. That's true, but it's been pretty cloudy, and I'm working when I do music. It's about 11 p.m. once my kid goes to sleep, so it's not sunny then. Might be warmer, but it's not sunny.
That's fair. That's I mean, it is, isn't it? I think it's taking it. Eonlake's a big proponent for it, isn't he? The notion of going and sitting under a tree or just going somewhere on holiday or going somewhere different to
Yeah.
get that creative juice. And that these guys seem really nice. And they're small and they're different. I think they've got 65 subscribers on YouTube. They've got a couple, they've got a handful of followers on Instagram and stuff like that. So they're small and that's cute. And so that is what's kind of nice about this. Is that these guys tend to be. It's like that Hungarian company that we looked at a couple of months ago,
Mhm.
where there's this boutique company and they make something really amazing and really different, and they just don't have much publicity. So I think there's a little nugget there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we want to bring awareness to it. I'm going to email them to see if they've got any additional footage or anything like that, or any like prototypes, anything. Because I really think these look interesting, and I'd like to see more. And Lars, I'm with you right there.
Does.
Lars, first of all, Lars, patron, hello, what's going on? Lars says, my pocket operator is always on the couch with me. I hear you. Yeah, that's why I've been using Koala so much. I love those. But yeah, the pocket operator, I got the 133, not the 2, but the Street Fighter variant of the 33. And that thing, I just bring it everywhere. The microphone is perfect to just sample sounds and then make a quick little beat. Yeah, and I also, another patron is in the chat. He might be working now, but he says, Survey Channel, howdy. What's going on, Survey Channel? Welcome, welcome. Says in the office, so probably can't talk much, but we're always happy to have you with us. And yeah, Mike says, compare these units with TE, OPZ, or POs. Yeah, I don't have the OPZ, but I think Eonlake does. So we'll see if we can get our hands on one, or get more information on it. It might be cool to take a look at the comparisons with the POs and even maybe the EP 133, something like that. And like I said, I think Eonlake has the OPZ. So yeah,
He's got everything.
yeah. I mean, if it exists, Eonlake most likely has it. Survey Channel says, got pulled into a meeting. No worries, bro. Happy to have you. Replays always here. We're just stoked to see you. Hope you're doing well. Have a good meeting, my friend. But yeah, anything else on this you want to talk about?
I just wonder. Okay, you've looked into this a little bit deeper than myself. I suppose the question is, where can you see it sitting in your setup? If you've got the Digitakt and you've got the SP now, and you've got Koala, obviously now they're going with tandem in with the SP. What
Mm-hmm.
I am assuming, it sounds like you're leaning towards a Synthgirl, for example. Question is, what would you do with it? What would you like to try with it?
Well, I think either of them will be cool, and I think it would depend. What I like doing is, even though I have a couple pieces of gear that I like to put all together, it's keeping it modular in the sense that I can go, oh, today I just want to make sounds with this piece of gear and this piece of gear,
Mm.
something like that. Like trying these combos out. Like, yeah, like you said, the integration between Koala and not Spotify, whoa, Koala and the SP. It starts with SP. That's what's getting me. But Koala and the SP is awesome. The workflow with the SP and the Digitakt is awesome, but it's all about seeing, sometimes I just want the SP, or I want to sample sounds into the SP and do that. So I find the SP is the most portable for me because I can kind of power it with a power bank or batteries, USB-C, all that. So I think it would be a cool way to have a very powerful or theoretically powerful synth or drum machine, sample it, maybe sync it via MIDI, and then control it with the SP or with the Digi or something. So it's really just having these options for portability and going, oh, I need a synth today, So now you've got this very flexible synth, or seemingly very flexible synth. I think we need a little more content to know kind of really what's going on with that synth, but it seems very promising, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the table. But I'm curious for you. You're building your little modular setup, not modular, but your portable modular in the sense that you can put things in and out. but your little portable setup. Do you think something like this has a place there?
Yeah, I like I say, it's quirky, it's different, it's relatively cheap, which is always nice, you know, $149. And I mean, especially after Super Booth. We did the episode on Super Booth last week, which was really fun. We all
Mhm.
took our gear, we took all our favorites from it. But I left the notion or the season of Super Booth with this kind of notion of like, synths are getting more and more complex and they're getting more expensive and there's more of a barrier to entry. And recently I'm kind of also seeing things from like entry level producers or like producers who are starting out, maybe making their first beats. And like, this is a small thing with a lot of power. And I like that about it, I think.
Yeah.
And which makes me want to go and explore it so that I can kind of shout it from the rooftops, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. And this is probably counterintuitive to us talking about gear, but my whole thing lately is just trying to make the most out of the gear we have, right? And so I just think it's like trying to find the gear that really suits your needs and then making the most of it. And this seems like it would suit it well. Um, but yeah, again, I want to stress though that these are, I guess, almost prototypes or something. The Kickstarter is going to launch soon for 150. I like the price, but you know, Kickstarters, it comes with, you know, grain of salt or whatever. Like, you know, sometimes Kickstarters don't go through or things like that. So it's good to keep that in mind. I'm not saying anything about the company or anything like that. Looks really cool, and that's why we brought it to the table, but wanted to bring that up. Also, hello to our patron Thomas. What's going on? Late for the show. You're just on time. You're here. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And
You're a
Smiling
wizard,
Ears,
man.
yeah, you're a wizard. Exactly, the Gandalf. Smiling Era says specs are light on the synth. Yeah, from what I could find, they don't give a whole lot. So that's what I was saying. I'd like to see more about that, hear more from it. And yeah, but we just kind of wanted to bring this to the table, see what everybody's thoughts are. If everybody's kind of vibing similar to us with these smaller setups or having smaller pieces of gear within that you can work with your DAW with or something like that. But yeah, anything else you want to say on this one, or shall we move on, Curtis?
Let's mosey on over, shall we?
All right. Yeah.
Well, let's move across to our community corner. We got a few things in community corner this week. Should we start with? Should we start with Eonlake? Seeing
Really
as
quick,
that is
really quick. Mike says, all I need is push 3 and Logic for stem splitting, apparently.
very much so. The I might get my hands on a push 2 at some point and start experimenting because that's
Push looks sick.
another way
Push
forward.
3 looks really sick though with the if you buy the standalone version.
This is true. This is true. So we have to see. So there are a number of our patrons in the chat today, and hello, thank you. It's wonderful. You guys are here, and you're the reason that we're independent, and we can keep doing this without accepting sponsorship deals or anything like that. So thank you ever so much for your support. We ever are so grateful for the support that you offer us. If you watching this show, either live or if you're watching back on Spotify or Apple Music, and you fancied supporting us in a similar fashion, just head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Audionautic. Pledges start at as little as $2, as you can see here, but they go up and up as you go increasingly up the tiers. There's more stuff. There's early access to the releases that we put out. There is our monthly hangout on actually on a StreamYard platform where we record it, which is really nice. Last Sunday, usually of every month, where we sit down, hang out with everyone, just chat, help each other out, which is really nice, and just see where people are going along their path in real life, not just in internet life, which is really nice. What am I missing, Sam Walker?
Yeah, just you mentioned StreamYard. If you enjoy us being able to screen share, upload videos, share our projects when we're working on things, or to demo live and things like that, or do what Curtis just did and put me up front and center, or do that even, that's all awesome. That's all through StreamYard. It's a great platform, but we're about due to re-up for it. So we're trying to raise the funds for it. Our patrons help us do that. But if you do want to help do a one-time donation or anything like that, Patreon and PayPal are in the description. We don't take ads. We don't do sponsorships or anything like that because we want to remain authentic and have no bias when it comes to what we're presenting for all of you. So if you enjoy what we do and want to help us do more of it, head to the Patreon or PayPal. And yeah, your support means everything. It helps us do this day in and day out. Smiling Air says, how much does it cost? It's $240. So $240 for a 1 year. And that's what we do. So yeah, there's PayPal, Patreon, all of that helps a ton. And yeah, we love doing these. So, you know, I mean, we'll always do them, but to do it at the best quality and without any bias and things like that, that's how we do it. Smiling Air says, StreamYard. Yeah, that's $240. Yeah. And Thomas says, and remember to smash that like button. I'm glad Thomas always says that, so I don't have to say it, but I can read it. So I appreciate it, Thomas. We love our patrons. They help the show. It's awesome. And Mike Smith is doing the typical YouTuber, like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. But yes, all of those things do help. And it's a great way to do anything for free. You can also, while watching live, should you want to, help with the YouTube algorithmic gods, as you will, by commenting, not just chatting, but if you go over to the comments, you can do that, leave a comment, and that helps show YouTube, hey, this is a good video, we'll show it more. But yeah, that's it for the Patreon. We love all of our patrons. You guys help us do this, and if you want to become a member, head there. But we also have something very exciting out today, and I wish he was here. I'm bummed he's not, but that's okay. But we've got a new album from the production wizard himself, Eonlake. This came out today on Bandcamp, and it's coming out on Friday on Spotify, Tidal, all that stuff. But we've also got a CD, Beyond Polarities. Just look at that artwork for a second.
He had some great ideas. He had some great ideas.
It took me a minute to master those because I just had to listen through and just like take the journey before I even started doing anything. Like the full album, it's meant to be heard as an album. And I mean, his mixing is always impeccable. We'll be talking with Eonlake next week about that. So patrons, if there's anything you want to cover or you want us to cover or you want him to cover about the album, put it in the patron channel on Discord and we'll let him know and then we'll cover it. He, I believe, is going to share some project files and things like that and show us kind of exactly what's going on in his production world, which I think that's going to be quite the treat because I'm always blown away by what he does. And like he sent me a remix for the remix album and I was stunned with what he did. It was incredible. He's got so much talent and skill when it comes to production and just songwriting. And I love that he's just untethered by these notions of Spotify and stuff. He just goes whatever he wants to do and just does it. And I love that. They're like 9-minute songs. He took a 2-minute song of mine and made it 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And I was like, if you can make a shorter version just for a single, awesome. But I was like, but don't change it if you don't think so. Because like everything made sense in that 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And I love that because I'm not someone that does that typically. So I really like hearing from someone else. But yeah, it's out today. Bandcamp. What is it? Audionauticrecords.bandcamp.com, right?
It is, yeah. Audionauticrecords.bandcamp.com. And it is great. It is in both digital and in CD. We'll start shipping CDs in a few days. Just to add to what you're saying some more, we can say this because he's not here and he can't say anything to the contrary. And so this is what happens, when you take a week off. Not only is he a production wizard and he knows exactly what he's doing and everything he does, he mixes with such intent. He's also incredibly humble. And so we can shower him with this praise, and we can shower him with our adoration of his new album, and he'll just take it, and he won't.
I gotta tell you, listening to his songs just feels like you take this audible blanket and just get cozy.
Yeah,
like I almost put that for the description, but I was like, I'll let Curtis do it. He's the English teacher. But but when I had a working description just to have something there, I put like take a journey. I mean, it's seriously it's crazy the sounds he creates, and everything is so nice in the mix. Nothing stands out, but he's got like 90 tracks in every song. It's impressive. I appreciate that.
Moving music, isn't it? Everything's moving. He's a big fan of the envelope followers. I'm really keen to see some project files and look under the hood next week. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, tune in next week, episode 116, if you want to see the maestro himself and showing off what he does and what he does best.
And lastly, in the community corner, if you want a chance to get some crazy sample sounds created by Eonlake, you have a chance because we're doing a Discord challenge, Secret Sample, where everyone basically, the goal is everyone makes a sample and it's due by June 3rd, which I think is next I have no idea what
Next
day
week?
that is. Is it? It's next week. Yeah. I don't even know what day it is today, but at some point, June 3rd, whenever day that arrives, that's when the
Monday.
samples are due. We've gotten quite a few already. So basically, the way it's going to work, it's like Secret Santa, but it's not Christmas, but secret sample. So everyone's making a sample. It can be a full track, a simple sample you found, anything like that, a couple sounds, a finished track that you stem split, whatever you want to do. Send it to us via DM on Discord or Instagram, anything like that. Don't give the sample publicly because it's secret. What we're going to do is then take all of those and give one to each of the participants. And then by, what's the date? Is it July 24th? We will have a listening party. And first we'll listen to the track created, and then we'll listen to the original sample and say who did that sample. So the person that receives the sample won't know who it's from. I mean, they might be able to guess, but they won't know. So that's the idea, is take this and just make whatever you want with it. And we want to stress that these don't need to be finished ideas, both the sample and the track you submit for the listening party. They can be demos. They can be a rough idea. It can be 8 bars. It could be 4 bars. Just the idea is to get out of our comfort zones, do something fun, and finish something. And by finish, I mean just get it up, whether it's a short thing, whether it's a full track, anything like that. Smiling Air says, I put the wrong one. Smiling Air says 1 sample per entry. Yes, all you need to do is make 1 sample, give it to us by June 3rd, and then we'll be giving the samples to everyone, the single sample to everyone. I think it's June 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
And then the due date for the final track that we'll be listening through is July 24th. So yeah.
It's gonna be fun. We're giving it a bit longer this time. Usually we do it once a month, but I mean, say usually. This is the only 3rd time that we've done it. But yeah, we've got a bit longer. It's summer. People are going to be out and about, holidays and stuff, and we want people to get involved. So giving a bit longer would be nice. It's also, just want to reiterate, it's not something that we take too seriously. We're not necessarily looking for polished tracks or things that have been mastered to -9 LUFS or anything like that. Just about fun. It's about getting together and doing something in the name of community. So if you're down for something like that, come over to the Discord. The link is in the description. I'll also put it in the chat as well, because you might be listening somewhere else. But yeah, come and join the Discord. It's growing. Lots of new different faces coming through. So yeah, it's a good chance to come and be with like-minded people.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I love those sample challenges or Discord challenges because it's just, I try to do something completely out of my normal. I mean, and sometimes time constraints stop me, but that's the goal, is just get out of our normal workflows, try something new, and then get feedback on that and learn something from it. Together we grow. That's our motto. So yeah.
Exactly. Together we grow. And yeah, moving on from that, in the name of Together We Grow, together
we grow upset, right?
Together we grow upset, yeah. Well, I mean, upset or kind of
together we rejoice, actually, because I know Eonlake would,
Uh,
if he was here, we were hoping he'd be very excited at this notion.
Exactly. Well, let's get to it. This comes from the Discord. Smiling Arrows, I think, first brought this to the table last week, but by that point we'd already had a full docket, so we're bringing it up here because it's fun to know about, and people want to know about it. Spotify is getting sued by the MLC for cutting pay rates to songwriters via premium settings. This is fun. After all the
fun, I don't know about fun, but it's interesting.
It is. After all the deliberation that we've had over Spotify and their payment structure and things like this, they're finally getting sued by the MLC, who are the Mechanical Licensing Collective. It's a non-profit organization. And basically, the whole point of it is to have lobby for new mechanical licenses in the United States, essentially, to make sure that we get paid fairly and get paid consistently. So, yeah. For context,
here it says glorious.
I mean, fair play, yeah. So basically, to give a bit of context to this, Spotify reclassified its premium and its family and its duo plans into a bundled subscription service to include audiobooks. So they up their prices a little bit more, and then they throw in a bit more as well. This comes in line with the 2022 settlement known as the Phono Records 4 settlement, which basically means that because they bundle their services together, they can offer lower lower royalty payouts, essentially, which Spotify has applied to its premium plans in this case. The MLC have claims that this reclassification is unlawful and doesn't justify, and what they're actually doing doesn't justify lowering their mechanical royalty payouts. They say this is going to significantly impact songwriters and publishers financially, and they've been trying to claim or get Spotify to pay out backdating royalties from March 2024. So yeah, this is happening on the same day that the National Music Publishers Association issued a cease and desist letter to Spotify for allegedly hosting unlicensed lyrics. And while all this is up in the air and everything's going, it seems pretty straightforward. And hopefully there'll be a resolution soon enough. But essentially, yeah, that's what's going down in that regard. So that's the drama for this week. That's the drama.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that article, we can put it in the description. That one's from Music Business Worldwide. Good article to just kind of get an idea of everything. And yeah, I think this is interesting. We've been talking when they announced these changes and when they brought in audiobooks, we had been theorizing that, oh, this is probably some way to either try to get people to not listen to music as often so they don't have to pay the royalties and things like that. But now we're actually seeing that this is kind of could, if this was done on purpose, this is a bit of a, and I'm just saying that as a clause, you know, but it's a bit of a shady tactic to get lower royalties when they've just made this big thing and they're loud and clear that they're changing their royalty setup to make them give the most money to artists that they think are legit or legitimized in their own classifications by having more than 1,000 streams per track in every year and things like that. So it's really interesting. It's like in the one hand, they made this claim, oh, here we go, we're giving artists more money. And then in the other, they did this audiobook thing so that they could bundle it in their premium so that the royalty can go down. So it's nice to see that there's a nonprofit out here trying to call them on that.
Most definitely. Whether or not it goes anywhere and whether or not it makes for any precedence of what streaming services can and can't do remains to be seen. But on the very surface, it does, at least from my perspective, allow for a chink in the armor of Spotify, who they've had such a monopoly for so long that they almost seem they're untouchable is probably the word I'm looking for in that regard. And
Yeah.
while as a consumer, you know, it's all very kind and nice and dandy, we're quite vocal about how it is from the other side of it, and it is exploitative. And so it's nice to see that this is starting to take an effect, which is nice as well.
And if nothing else, just seeing action being taken on artists' behalf is nice, because we typically don't see that. It's usually just us presenting, now Spotify's doing this to screw artists. Now they're doing this. Now they're doing this. So seeing them getting called out on something is good to see. Smiling Earth says, I'm reveling in their discomfort and potential demise. Speaking of that, I posted in the Discord on the Off Topic channel an interesting video from Polymatter about Spotify's basic strategy of like adding new things all the time, because they've only existed because of angel investments. They've never turned a profit. So they always try to roll out these new things. And basically the argument in the video is that in doing these new things, they keep getting further and further away from what people actually go to Spotify for. And they just keep trying to find the next new thing, but then companies come and challenge them on it. And then they never actually, because they're never doing that fully, they never like make a big thing. So their whole idea is to keep getting investors by saying, but we've got this new thing. And when that starts to dry up, well, now we've got this new thing. It was a very interesting look into what this video calls Spotify's grand strategy. And it's in the Discord, worth a watch. I think you showed me Polymatter a long time ago for something else, right?
I don't know if I showed you Polymatter and that's how you got into it, but Polymatter has been on my radar for for a fair few years.
I think you're the one that sent me a video from them or something, and I watched it. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But if any of you, besides Smiling Ears and Lars, have an opinion, or Smiling Ears and Lars, if you have more you want to share, of course, let us know in the chat. If you're watching this back, let us know in the comments. We'll keep an eye on this. I mean, it'll be interesting. Does it go anywhere? Is it going to be similar to the whole TikTok thing where, you know, it just keeps going through could potentially just keep going through different lawsuits and things like that? I don't know. We've got another patron, though, Ace of Stripe, in the chat. welcome, Asaph. How are you, my friend? Yeah, let's. I mean, is there anything else you want to cover about this? And chat, feel free to chime in if there is.
I just want to reiterate just on the back of that polymatter, right? So like
Mhm.
polymatter has got how it usually does like global politics and world economics and things like this, right? Very different to our world. And he's not coming from a notion of music producer and that kind of
Point,
thing.
yeah.
He's looking at just how it works, right? Which is exciting because let's face it, what we do here is kind of niche. You know, it's we, you know, we're fellow producers talking to
Envelope
fellow
followers are
producers.
niche.
I mean, I mean, mainstream in our little echo chamber, but you know what I mean. My point is, Polymatter is very popular. I think they've got over 1 million subscribers, which the potential for talking about it is, or more is seeing what's going on is really great. Now, we talk about Spotify a lot, and when something new, a new development comes from Spotify, we have this discussion on our Monday meetings about, you know, we do a bit of Spotify, you know, do we really want to bring it back and talk about it again in that regard? And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But I think this shows that the notion of continuously talking about something, not saying that we directly influence Polymath at all. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying consistent talking about it, consistent bringing awareness to the
Yeah.
situation to people who are not in our niche and not doing what we're doing does work, and it does have an effect. So there is always something to be said about talking about this and
And
talking
that's
about
why
these
we do
things.
it.
Exactly.
I mean, we don't
Exactly.
like talking about Spotify. We don't like seeing these things happen, but it's important to talk about it. It's important to hear all of you. It's important to get all of our opinions and just express our dismay at it all and things like that. If nothing else, just to, you know, be together on it and stuff and share in our misery of it. But more importantly, bring awareness to it for anybody watching and to make sure, you know, together we're a larger voice. And it's important that we're heard. And I think that by doing it in this way, by bringing it up, by constantly talking about it, like, look, we're seeing, as you're saying, Polymatter covered it, not because of us by any means, but the more people talk about it, the more we come together to discuss it, the more awareness is out there about it, the more shares, retweets, discussions, topics, all that stuff. Real life discussions are very important too. But yeah, the more that happens, the better, I say, because it's important we talk about these things and know what these companies are doing, because our music's important. And, you know, for most of us, music is life, right? So I think it's important, whether we want to talk money or anything like that, but fair value, fair everything for it. It's important to think about these things.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's always nice in that regard, to keep on talking about it and to keep showing that, you know, there is a world beyond Spotify. Um, and like you say, this is why we, you know, we put things out on Bandcamp first, because, you know, we all know and love Bandcamp for what they are, and this is a great way to support the people properly, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick, unless there's anything more you want to cover on this topic, we've got some chat I want to read. Okay. Thomas, one of our patrons, says, you guys should make an episode on ideas about how to write a good text for a bio. I'm so bad at that. Maybe bios are a thing of the past. Who reads them anyways? I think bio is very important, whether on Spotify, even. It's good to have a bio. It's good to have links and things like that. But I I think, I mean, I always read an artist's bio. Maybe I'm weird or something, but I'm always reading an artist's bio because I think it's important to kind of get where the artist is coming from, and a bio should typically do that. So I think that's a great topic, Thomas, and I think we can cover that in a round robin in a future episode. Just really quickly though, well, no, we'll save it for a later round robin. I think that's a good idea. And if anybody has ideas about writing bios and things like that, post it in the Discord. We'll make a little thing for it in our docket, and then when we cover it, I don't know if we can do it next episode because we got a pretty full docket with Eonlake, but maybe the episode after that we'll put that in for the round robin. I think that's a very good point. But really quickly, I'm curious, do any of you in the chat read bios for artists on Spotify, on Bandcamp, on their YouTube, wherever? I'm curious because, you know, I mean, even if you're just sending to blogs, you want to have a bio to just kind of let people know who you are. But Curtis, you have a bio, I think, though I think you shortened it on Spotify to very, very short. Did you not?
This is, yeah. So this is, me and you have got the yin as ever, brother. We've got the yin and yang of bios, haven't we? Like, and we won't get into this now. We'll get into this later. But yeah, you've got quite an extensive bio, and I've got a very short bio. I think it's 2 words, an emoji, and my website, for example. So
I liked when
maybe
it
it's
was
time
that
for
music at the like at a dive bar at the end of space or something. I like that one that you had.
mm, yeah, the something along the lines yeah, the dive bar on the edge of the universe, that kind of
That
thing.
was it. That
Which is
was it.
another one. Yeah,
That
I'm
was
just
it.
kind of floating through at this stage.
Yep.
So yeah, we can definitely have a talk about that. It's been requested, or we say which we done. Let's do it. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Next week we are discussing Eonlake, and we're discussing his album for those who have just joined us. So maybe that'll take up the majority of the discussion part of the episode. But maybe the week after, for
That's what
example.
I'm thinking. Yeah,
Hmm.
what episode is this? 115, 117 we
16,
can.
117.
Yeah. And real quick, thanks chat chiming in. Asaph says always read bios. Yeah, I'm with you right there. Smiling Air says I don't. I get conflicted about the marketing aspect versus the musician. That's a valid and interesting take. I mean, it's a good point. Me personally,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I guess it really depends because like a bio can either be all ad speaky to drive traffic or to make like a big point about who you are and stuff like that. And I've seen some YouTubers talk like, oh yeah, try to make it like very not boastful, but like I've been on this radio and this and that and this and that and this and yeah, so that's a good point. I still like to see it though, me personally. Like I like to hear who the artist is. Like, well, I remembered that thing, even if I paraphrased it poorly. But Curtis's, music for the dive bar at the edge of the universe, like it's memorable, and I like reading those things to kind of get the context of where the artist is coming from, basically. But yeah, I don't think you have to. That's a very good point, Smiling Ears. And Thomas says, I think the personal side, trying to connect, is important. I do read them. Yes. Also says exactly, Smiling Ears. Great point. Um, Sminger says, get a filter that puts Eonlake in a spotlight for next week. Yeah, I don't know, but we can, with StreamYard, we can do things like this. And when it's a third person, there'll be someone in the middle. So we can put Eonlake there and have him right there. And then we can also, just go completely put him right there. And when he shares his project, I think we can have him be the main presenter. I just threw Curtis while I was talking just to show what power we have with StreamYard.
it is
Yeah,
fun.
and that's what I
It
was
does.
talking about, Thomas, really quickly. Just fill in a lot of searchable keywords to please the algorithm. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing, technically. Sorry, I just moved my screen, so the camera, if you saw the movement. But yeah, that is a thing, technically, you can do. I'm not saying to do it or not, but that's a good point. What Smiling Ears was saying, it made me think of that. Anyways, we'll cover that in 117. So if you have opinions on it, if you want to share your bios, maybe we all take a look at everybody's bios and things like that. Put it in the Discord. What's the best channel for that, do you think? The Marketing Magic?
Yeah, probably Marketing Minute.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking. Marketing,
probably.
is it Marketing Minute? I don't know, but the
Uh,
marketing one.
there's one about marketing. Go there.
Yeah, go to that one,
Give
and
us knowing what our Discord's
I think
about.
it would be good to have multiple people's bios, and we can kind of look at the differences between them. Like Curtis has, like you said, a very short one. I have a bit longer one. I'm guilty of putting a couple things that like I've been on this radio, that, but it's not the front and center, but it is there for context. But yeah, maybe I'm just a market shill. I don't know.
I think it's however you want to do it. But let's leave that there for now. Let's get into it because it is a hefty debate. It's something that I struggle with as well. Like in terms of what do I put? I don't want to be braggy. I don't want to be markety, but I also want to tell people what it is. And
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
tough. It's tough to figure out
yeah,
where's that line, and that's probably what we can talk about. Like, where is that line of putting too much and this and that? So yeah, this is a really good topic. Thank you, Thomas.
mm,
Great topic. Like I said, post your bios and your thoughts in the Marketing Minute Discord channel because we'll cover it. I'll make a thing in the docket or a different thing in our drive and put all of them so we have it and we can read them off. But I really like that idea, and I think together we grow. This will be really good. We can all kind of see where we're coming from and maybe all learn something from it.
very much so. Very much so. So, in the name of learning something from it, let's have a look at this week's round robin.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about artwork this week. For those who are new to the show or haven't checked it out, or maybe just trying it out on a whim, this is our community discussion section of the show. We take an idea about the musician's journey, be it existential or in terms of marketing, maybe it's a tool or a production technique. whatever. It can be whatever it is, whatever happens to be on our mind in terms of the individual or the community for that given week. This week, we're looking at artwork, and we're having a look at ways in which you can do it for any budget. Obviously, the advent of AI and things like Dolly and Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, etc. Though I don't hear about Midjourney as much. Anyway, my point
It's still
is
there. There's
that
Copilot too, which we'll talk about.
Copilot, yeah. There is. It's really easy to get artwork these days, but is it always that easy? Because you can just go and generate something, pick it up, but it's still a gray area. There's an ethical issue in there. There's the notion of companies and platforms starting to recognize AI-driven artwork and starting to flag it, that kind of thing. There's also the notion of going back to what we maybe old school, like OG ways of making artwork, working with a human, either making it yourself or making it or getting it commissioned, for example. There's so many different avenues, there's so many different ways of exploration, and we just kind of want to go through it to help anyone who kind of has the music there and ready to go, but doesn't quite want to or know where to go in terms of artwork.
Yeah. So where do you want to start? The Pro, the phone? How do you want to do it?
Let's start. I would like to maybe start with the phone, I believe. I'd like to start with the phone. I'd like to start small. I'd like
DIY.
to get more DIY and then more extensive and more kind of collaborative as
Yeah.
we go on. I think that's fair.
All right, I like it. All right. So there's a couple ways to approach it, and something Lars just said is something I had on my mind, but it still requires some knowledge. Lars says GIMP is free, just saying, which is like a Photoshop equivalent, and that's true. But doing things on your phone compared to GIMP is, at least in my opinion, quite a lot easier. You don't need to learn a bunch because it's kind of the UI is just like, oh, tap these things and you can make these changes. Whereas GIMP, when I had it last time, downloaded it, you kind of need to know basic like Photoshop-esque UI and things like that. Lars, you're welcome to disagree. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I've used it. But anyways, the phone, we've all got a phone. It's right there. It's handy. So there's a couple ways to approach it coming from the phone. There's public domain websites where you can get photos like Pexels, Internet Archive. There's a bunch of them. You can use photos. They're copyright free. But I have found oftentimes these images have been used, and videos, because you can do public domain videos. They've been used a ton by many people. And so it can start to feel derivative, too similar, or look very close, or almost can be seen as being a copy, but it's really not a copy. It's a copyright free thing. An idea that I've done for that, though, is splice ideas together. I've done like double exposure, or I've given Curtis a few, and he does, which we'll get into, his Photoshop magic, takes small segments and puts them together to make something new. But that's getting more to the complex. But public domain is there. Beyond that, though, AI. So there's generative things you can do. Bazart, Bazaart does it, but it has a price. Copilot is Microsoft's ChatGPT equivalent, but they have a designer. Dolly, I think, is free. Copilot's free. Dolly is through ChatGPT or the open AI. Stable Diffusion, I don't think it works on Discord anymore. The bots are still down, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got a whole new platform and it's behind a paywall.
I knew that was going to happen. I loved Stable Diffusion for that, but so I've been using Copilot for that. Now, AI comes with its ethical dilemmas and things like that, but that's a different conversation. So just strictly in terms of making artwork, you could do that. What I would recommend doing, though, is then taking those ideas and editing them, either doing double exposure, doing editing. I add a lot of filters and like analog look to it, dust and light leaks and things like that. So there's kind of those two angles. You can also just take photos even with your phone and edit them. There's editing apps. Canva is great. It's almost like a Photoshop junior, but it has some things behind a paywall. Afterlight is, I want to say, like $17 a year, but they also have a free version that has tons of really good editing. And even the built-in editor on like iOS, it's not amazing, but you can do some decent editing with it, like contrast changes and things like that. So those are simple ways to do it. I know I just kind of like just went through all of them, and I mean, I could show examples on my phone, or actually just if you don't mind going to my Music for Imagined Landscapes page, we could show some of like art that I've just done using I think it's a good idea. Just
Yes,
using
thank
some
you.
of
Yes,
these. Yeah, so I've done it for the AI thing. I've done even the double exposure thing. If you go to Future Fade, the artwork for those singles was taking Pexels images and double exposure, putting them together to make it look less unique. Because I had an issue one time when I did the track Star Guide. I grabbed a Pexels image and I sent it to Curtis, and he removed a few things. 2 days after I sent that to him, someone posted an album with the exact
yes,
photo, but no
yes.
editing
I
done. It was
remember
the
that.
same photo. That one. So
Yeah,
I mean, if you go to Pexels and I forget what you search, we edited a lot of stuff out, but you'd still notice like if you saw it. But yeah, that's my issue with these public domain things is you see like others, it will be very similar. Curtis did some magic on it and it looked great, but that's the thing. So yeah, if you go to that's another Pexels
uh,
one. We actually
yeah,
did like 3 layers to it, and I think you made the window bigger or the door, whatever that is.
yeah.
You know, like
That's, that's
you made that bigger. You took out what was in the center, I think, and you put something new in. So that's something you can do if you want to have real human work, you know, and things like that. And then if you go up to actually cracks in the visage, that's a mix of Pexels and AI. Like the crows are from an image that's AI, and then the main image is a real photo from Pexels. There's a lot you can do there to kind of put these things together, and this is all with phone apps and AI
it.
and Pexels and things like that. So, I mean, I'm not saying my art's amazing or anything like that, but I'm just showing that you can do this. I've released it. I've gotten songs on, you know, playlists and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I'm just reading the comment section. Do you want to read some of that before we go into the next bit?
Yeah, let me read some of that, and then while we do that, why don't you queue up music for Imagined Landscapes? We'll just show some of the like more AI with editing, just to show it real quick. I just want to give some examples. So Asaph says PixArt on my phone is my go-to. Um, Lars, I think in reference to GIMP, says it's not too bad, but if you've never used a desktop photo editor, you're gonna have a
Mm.
tough daytime. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like it just takes a little acclimating. So if you want to just do something quick or get it done, I find those phone apps are more than capable. Smiling Earth, this is a good point too. If it's been used before commercially, it may be liable for copyright, even though it's public domain. That's even a thing with like
Sure.
Splice and stuff like that. You know, artists
Mm.
use a CD Baby or something, and then any Splice sound is registered as being in that song or something. Lars says, just do what death metal bands do and use medieval art. Smiling Earth says, spaghetti writing. Yeah. Lars says, it lets everyone know how serious and professional you are. Asaph says, I can sit for hours playing with photos. Very relaxing. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mm.
All right. Anything, Curtis? I know I've been talking a lot. Anything you want to
Mm.
add to this before we go to the next one?
Uh, just that the collaborative approach in this is something that's
Mhm.
it's worth doing as well. So Acer Strike Acer Strike's got a really interesting one because the artwork. Correct me if I'm wrong, Acer Strike, but it's you pick your artwork based on artwork that your father created. If I'm not correct, which is a really cool collaboration, right? That's a consistent
Yeah.
thing, right? I like that. That's a really nice motif. It's a really nice. It's a really nice process in that regard. You can take this AI and you can alter it yourself. You can get someone else to alter it. Quite often, or during the future fade period of our existence, Sun Wolper did the edits on his to me, and we kind of touched it up and we did a little bit more with it in Photoshop,
Yeah.
which became a collaborative approach, which was a lot of fun because that, in a similar way to getting a mastering engineer to master your music, you actually got another eye coming in and going, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And make this work, that kind of thing, which is a really nice cathartic collaborative process.
Yeah, that's a good point. And those photos for Future Fade, I all were from Pexels, and then I'd kind of like make a mock-up on Bazart and then send it to Curtis, and I was like, "You can do this way better than I." And then he'd take it and do what I said, and then kind of embellish on it with his courtesiness. And then it was that idea of getting two minds on it instead of just the one. And I really like that. And that's something I've seen some people doing with AI, where they write or they make something with the AI based on the prompt they want to give. Like let's say they're better at doing a text than that, and then they hire someone to like recreate it, but now with this human aspect in mind. And I really like that idea. It's interesting. That's something I've been thinking about as well, or anything in that way. So there is creating with AI, but there's also the idea of hiring people or commissioning or doing these collaborative efforts and things like that. Yeah, real quick, Curtis, let's just go to that Music for Imagined Landscapes one I just want to show kind of taking the idea of collaboration with the AI, and then we'll move to the pro method, the Photoshop.
Here we go. This one?
Yeah, this one. So this, I
Yeah.
made the image with AI, and then I edited a few things. I used an app called Retouch, which is, they have a free version and a paid one, but to remove parts, because typically with AI photos, there's some weird artifacts. And so I like to go in and use Retouch to adjust things. And then if I really need to change things with like serious, beyond just like a retouching thing, I have Curtis go in and use Photoshop to do it. But so I made the main image, it was a full image. And then Curtis took it, did that circle, added the text, did the image. And this is how we did the book that we made too. We made an art book and we did it in that way too. And I really like doing that, where you can take the AI and fix it, kind of get the prompt that's in your head, get it into art, and then you can build from there. And each track in this album, if you click on each track, has its own artwork that I did editing. I didn't have Curtis do all of them with me. I just used editing to kind of remove things and stuff like that. And I like doing that. Yeah, it was a great way to kind of get that idea out.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with generating AI artwork and then just calling it done. That is something to note. I mean, obviously you're losing something, and yes, you know, that's a different conversation for a different day. But if you've got a single within a group, for example, and you want each one to have its artwork, that seems fair enough. If you're trying to tell a story, music for imagined landscapes, for example, where you're trying to bring to life this imaginative, literally this imaginative landscape, like you're creating that, and that's a good tool to use. You know, it's not the mainstay of the artwork,
Yeah.
sorry, of the, but it's there to kind of guide
Yeah.
you and give you ideas. You know, nothing wrong
Exactly.
with that at all.
The track had a cue, right? Like the track was
Yeah.
meant to soundscape or soundtrack a place. And so I took the ideas in my head when I made the song, like, oh, I want this song to be like you're sitting on this alien landscape and you see this lake and this and that. And I could make that prompt and the AI could generate it, and then I could fix it. And then that was the art. So it was a very interactive method, and getting exactly what I had in my head out without, having to go through a lot of changes and things like that. So it was a way to do it, and I enjoyed it. But I've done it, and we've done it in all kinds of ways. And I think that the best way to really get exactly what you want, though, is like working with someone. Like when I know I want
Yeah.
something done properly, I go to Curtis, because Curtis is full of courtesiness, as Lars says. So let's talk some Photoshop, because I mean, you do all of our art for the thumbnails for this. You do it for every album we do, and all that.
I do everyone.
Most.
I would most, yeah. It's
Most.
FCC does his own artwork. Jonathan
That's right.
Good, his Juxtaposition Junction, that's all him. I
That's
just
right.
put some details on just to say
You
it,
do
just to be
most of
clear.
it, or you at least will make some edits and do some changes and things like that, add text and all that kind of stuff. But basically, it's like the tracks all get mastered through me, and then you take the art and everything gets kind of funneled through there. And we really like doing it that way, this collaborative effort where we can work with the artist on these different aspects of it and really get the idea that's in their head, but presented in a way that's done well and by a human. So this is Eonlake's album, Beyond Polarities, which, I mean, we can't sing the praises of enough. But I saw this artwork and just stood there for a second and was like, wow. So let's talk how you made it.
This is but this comes from the mind of Eonlake, and he said basically he gave me about a 2-page PDF of.
So you were his AI.
I was his AI.
He
And then
gave you a prompt.
He did, essentially, yeah. And this is a really good example, I think, of taking multiple AI pieces and then collaging together. So I like to make collages with the work that I do. Anyway, I like to do it that way. So what I did is I went to I think it was in that time it was Stable Diffusion before it went behind a paywall. This was
I'm still
originally, I'll
bummed
say,
about that, man. I knew that was
I
going to
know.
happen. And I was like, because it was right when I was finishing all the videos that they added video. And I was making all those video promos. And then they're like, oh, bots are down. They'll be down for a long time. And then they'll come back. Never came back.
Exactly. It never came back. Well, technically did. They did a
But
marketing
did
sweep
it?
on it. Technically came back.
But did it?
Yeah. So yeah. So I just want to highlight a few things here, which are quite interesting. So in the name of, I went to Stable Diffusion, and I wrote a load of prompts based on what Eonlake wanted. And he wanted this general idea. He wanted this tree descending down into a double helix, into a body of water with stars behind it, overarching this portal in space.
Are you
Right? That was
reading his
his kind
prompt?
of,
Man, that's like detailed.
that's essentially what he wanted. I've spent a long time making this one. This one took me, I think this is the most time I've ever work.
Interesting.
I started it last year in the summer, and I finished it just before Christmas, I think. So
Wow.
and then there's the podcast.
Well, you're cutting out there, Curtis. You mind saying that again?
Hear me now?
A little
Hello?
bit. You're frozen though.
How about now?
Yeah, now you're moving.
Okay, that's cool. So if you look on this bottom right hand side, you can see that there's actually a lot of layers in Photoshop here.
Hold on, let me zoom in
Um,
on the image there. There we go.
if you look over here, there's actually where you see the mouse moving. There's actually a lot of layers. And what I did is I just splurged and did about 4 to 7 prompts until I settled down on a couple of things. And obviously, you can see that there are things that I put in and then took away and didn't really want. So if I get rid of this, for example, get rid of a couple of these layers, you can see that once upon a time, if I get rid of this here, once upon a time, the tree looked very different to the way it looks now. We get rid of this, disable the layer mask. You can see it's got its whole thing. I cut it all out, and then effectively superimposed this double helix idea on here in the middle. And then basically blended them together. So what we're doing here is we're taking AI generated art, and then we are combining it with other AI generated art to create what you want. This portal is actually a collage in its own self of 1, 2, 3, at least 3 layers of different portals in its own regard. You can bring them in and you can take them away, and you can see like that's what it looks like. And then this just kind of slaps on, which is another image in its own way. AI, I suppose what I'm getting at, actually, as well as that, I do have royalty-free or public domain images from NASA, such as this
Ah.
thing here that is going here, which is a great
Mhm.
resource as well, especially if you're into spacey stuff. So the combination of public domain and AI together to make your own artwork is an art form in its own right. Not saying necessarily that what I'm doing is an art form, but it is a methodology that is really nice in that regard and that people seem to resonate with. It takes time, takes effort. See, there's a rejected idea. It was a tree at one point.
Mm.
The idea of the tree going to double helix couldn't quite work.
Mhm.
Originally, I tried to get this tree to make itself into a double helix, and it didn't work. The AI couldn't do it. There's a limitation. But I had to go and blend it myself, which is over here, essentially. Bringing these things together is a really therapeutic way to bring your music to life. And if you don't necessarily have the skills to do it in Photoshop yourself, there are plenty of people who will do it for you, and they won't always charge an arm and a leg. Eonlake had to drag me. I think he sent me. I think it took me about 3 weeks to make a final decision on how much I wanted to charge him for this. And even at that point, he was like, "Nah, be a little bit more," that kind of thing. Now that could be me, but I can get this artwork done relatively cheaply. Things that's like Fiverr artwork, for example, even just on Discord pages and Instagram. People, it's such a low barrier to entry, and there's such a load of people doing it that it's relatively cheap and easy to do. And it really can give you an opportunity to bring the ideas that are in your head to the forefront, unlike any other. Eonlake went and forth. Eonlake and I went back and forth on this for about 4 weeks before we settled on a final concept. And it was a really fun concept, a really fun time, sitting down there on a Sunday morning, having a cup of tea, just kind of chatting and chilling out together. And that's priceless at the end of the day. You can't put money on that. I think that's that community and that garnering of a relationship is really fun, and it's out there and it's part of the musical journey, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I love seeing all of those layers and everything you did and all of the aspects of combining different AI to get that, because that's one of the things with AI. I mean, you can become a master at prompting, but some things it's still going to just get kind of wonky and things like that. And so taking these smaller ideas and bringing them together to create the real prompt is a very interesting aspect of getting something far more nuanced. I'd be curious, did you ever try to get this artwork exactly in a prompt?
I did, yeah. I really did. Like
Yeah.
again, this tree. If I bring, where is it? It's double helix here, for example. I really tried to bring. Where is it? There is a tree somewhere. Like I brought it up before. I
Hmm.
spent a good afternoon trying to find a tree that went and decayed into a double helix in its own right
Hmm.
before anything else. And yeah, see here, look, another tree
Oh
here. I
yeah.
really
Let me
tried to
zoom in.
make it. Yeah, I really tried to make it be. If I get rid of the double helix here, for example, yeah, and it wasn't spitting out what I wanted it to. It went into a
Hmm.
body of water, fine, but it's not really a tree trunk. It's not really a tree. It would be a tree trunk that went into a double helix, and it wasn't quite getting it right.
Yeah.
And I was getting increasingly frustrated with the limitation, and I was just like, "Nah, come on, I'll go in and I'll blend it, and I will make it work." And you know, I learned a lot about blending in that regard in the process as well, which is something that AI can't do for you. And we say this sometimes that it's giving you close to what you want, but you don't learn anything in the process. And I learned a lot about my Photoshop skills during this process, but how to manipulate images, how to blend images, not just using the pen and the tablet that I usually use, but in terms of the adjustments, for example, where you're changing gradient maps and you're changing the RGB and stuff like that. Like, and even on the back image, for example, something really simple, like you'll see on the back image, if you go to the Bandcamp site, the image is a text around the portal, right? So that it goes, the titles go around the portal. It's really basic. I had no idea how to do that until I did this artwork, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, you feel like you level up a little bit. It's quite
Because
fun.
you definitely can't get text from AI.
No.
If anyone's familiar with using AI when it does text, you'll know what I mean. I mean, it just spits out like hallucinations of words.
Very much so. Very
That
much
there was
so.
that whole
So
thing with Grand Theft Auto remastered a couple years ago when they put out the remaster. They used AI to like upres some of the buildings and stuff, and the words just made no sense and things like that. But even worse than that, sometimes it doesn't even put up words. It's just like spaghetti looking. It's the death metal art. It's just spaghetti lines, or like lines put together in weird shapes that resemble words but have no, like, they're not words. They're not even language. It's just these random things put together. But I think the point here is that AI, as it currently stands, and probably always, but I don't want to set a thing, but has its limitations, especially with these really in-depth ideas or concepts that you're trying to put together. So AI has its place. If the copyright and stuff aside, that's a different conversation. AI has its place though when it comes to making art, or if you have no budget, it's a good way to do it. If you have images in your mind that you want to turn into actual images, like take your text ideas and put it into an image, or your song ideas into an image, it's a very cool way of doing it. That's the whole experiment I did with that album, was taking these concepts and turning it into it. But as we can see with Beyond Polarities, there's limitations to that idea. And I think having a pro on it, it's a very good idea. And I like this. What Smiling Air says, AI prompts are like telling the hairdresser what you want.
I love
Yeah,
that. It's true.
very true. And
So
and
true.
Lars was excited at my bring back of the death metal font. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is something to be said. So yeah, I think there are some methods there that we can talk about further in the Discord,
Yeah.
if people are interested in something like that.
Before we wrap up,
Artwork
though,
is
really quickly, I just want to ask everybody, what's your main method of creating artwork? I'd love to hear. Do you use AI? I know we talked about Asef a little bit. Where's it? Thomas mentioned have your kid draw the artwork. It's a classic. I mean, that's an awesome way, similar to the father and son you were talking with Asef. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear everybody's take. How do you typically generate your artwork? If it's different every time, what's your favorite way of doing it? Um, yeah, I just want to hear from everybody. And if you're watching this back, let us know in the comments, because I mean, like we said, hearing from everybody in these things like the sample challenge we're doing and stuff, that's how we learn. That's how we grow and, discover new things and like, oh, okay, I can do that, similar to Curtis's experience with, oh, I can make the text in that circle. And now I know. So yeah, let us know. I'm curious to hear.
I am too. Speaking of curiosity, I think I'd be curious to know how Survey Channel works. Particularly, I'm particularly fascinated with his artwork and how he's.
We'll pull him out of that meeting and let him say.
Well, exactly. Survey Channel, if you're watching back, come on the show, buddy. We'd love to know what you're doing and how you do it, because the artwork and the aesthetic, and that's a true example of where artwork and aesthetic come together
Mm-hmm.
to. You see something and you hear something, and you go, "Oh, that's Survey Channel," for example, or you see his artwork, you go, "Oh, of course," and it's there's something. It's important. I'd say almost as important as the music itself. You're right, buddy. You come and
Hold
say
on, we
hi.
got to zoom in on the cat.
He's
There we
here
go.
today.
There we
He's not
go.
been here for a while. You all right?
Hey,
Yeah.
bud.
I've been out for the last couple of days, so yeah. Yeah. I think, is there anything else on that we're saying? Is there anything else we want to know
I
on
just
that?
want to bring up Smiling Air says, I draw it to start with photos back in the day. Now I'll be using Photoshop. Very cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. I think, I mean, you could even go old school about it and go around taking Polaroids, for example, or taking photos and then making them or developing them in a dark room and then double exposing them, or
Yeah.
adding light to them to kind of mess with them a little bit. I'd
One
really
of
like
the
to
first
experiment with that.
vinyls I made, the Future Fade 1, was a photo I took when I was walking the dog of like the sun coming through some bush. It's literally a house by my house, but you don't see any of that because I took this shot like through the bushes to get the sun, and then I superimposed or double exposured a couple other photos from like pixels on top. And then I think I had you do a little bit of magic on that and add the text and stuff, and that was the art for vinyl. But that main photo is just this like 2 blocks away from my house. Just it looks like you're in the forest or something, but no, it's just this bush right by a house where I just did it. So yeah, I mean, don't sleep on just taking photos with your phone and editing them. Afterlight is a great app that I use for that. There is a free version unless it's changed, but if you really want to express these natural landscapes you found, my wife is an incredible photographer and she had all these photos from Hawaii, so I use those for a lot of artwork too, of like different art and stuff like that. So there's something to be said about real places, and things like that. And I say that as someone that made a whole album with AI art because that was the point of imagined landscapes. But yeah, if you can make it real and stuff, it's very cool. Asaph says photography is still relevant for sure, definitely.
Is
Lars says, "Oh, say again, Curtis."
no,
What were you saying?
I finish with the chats first. Just want to spring off of the photography thing for a second
Yeah.
before we go.
All right. Lars says, "I love doing photography now. New obsession. Have you done any of your artwork with it, Lars? Let us know." Smiler says, "Yes, Asaph. Back in the day, I used to love editing in a dark room. Not sure they still exist." Thomas says, "Oh, this is interesting. I've used my own photos to feed into Midjourney." Thomas, if you don't mind, what did you do from there? Did you give it prompts to redesign it or add stuff on top of it, alter it, cartoonize, like digitize it? What did you prompt it to do with those photos? And Lars says, no, maybe in the future in terms of using the art. Nice. That's good to hear, man. That's really good to hear. All right, Curtis, what was your take or your thought?
I think it all comes down to authenticity at the end of the day, and we bang on about this quite a lot. But I just want to bring up this example. There's
You want me
an
to share it?
American. Please, yes. There's an American singer-songwriter called Ian McConnell, who's he writes some interesting songs, and he's just released this album here. This is literally him standing in what looks like in front of a glass window or a one-way mirror, for example, outside of a building. And you can see he's just done some scribbling in some weird pen, different colors, and then he's literally written. He's probably using Procreate or something like that. Ian McConnell season 2. This is, you don't have to necessarily go big and go massive and spend hours and time and everything on it. You can literally just take a selfie and make a thing out of it. And that's kind of also where the trend and the zeitgeist is going to go. Again, authenticity. If it comes from the heart, it comes from what you're doing as a DIY independent musician, that people are going to resonate with that more than anything, I feel, at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, look at Aphex Twins. A bunch of his albums is just him like smiling, or alterations of I love all of his artwork and stuff. And then I mean, I bring them up all the time, but Boards of Canada's artwork, I always love those. They're very like of the moment of the time, but then they have this haunted esque, like things, the faces are blurred out, not haunted, but like a almost like memories that are kind of vague to you, like the faces are blurred out and things like that. And I love that. Thomas says, I used multiple pictures as a prompt, let the AI make a new photo, and then edit that picture until I'm happy. Interesting. Yeah. Smiler says, Aphex face on children is scarier than his music. Yeah, that smile he does. And what is it the Richard D. James album? The one where it's like that drawn smile of his, and then that Come to Daddy music video or whatever, that one. Yeah.
It's creepy, but brilliant in its own way. So I think it's important to say, like, just as the music, just have fun with it. Really.
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
I like to think as artwork as, and you don't have to do this, but artwork is that setting the plate or setting the stage of your album, right? Like you're giving this visual cue of what you want the listener to think of when they're listening to the album. So I like to consider, like, we spend so much time buying VSTs, making patches, designing synths, mixing the sounds to be just perfect. It's like there's a whole other aspect of it in the album art that you're going to see, or that the listener is going to see when they have the CD, when they have the vinyl, if they have the cassette for Lars, if they're looking at the digital, or even on Spotify, the canvas or something like that. It's nice to take a little time and really do something with that, because to me, that's that final bit. Like we talked about that last 10% of a track or whatever, but this is that other little part of the track at the end that I don't think should be taken for granted. And there's so many ways to do it, as we've spent 40 minutes or something discussing all these different ways to do it. And if you have no budget, but you've got a phone, there's ways you can do it. You can do AI, you can get public domain, you can take photos, you can edit them. And then if you have access or the means to hire someone to design things for you and stuff, or how to do it, that's a really good way to do it too. But I just think it's good to not take it for granted, basically, because that's like that's the first thing people typically are going to see with an album is the art, and then they'll hear it, or they'll hear it on the radio. But like when you go to it, it's that. So yeah, I think it's important.
Very much so. Again, we've been talking about this for about 40 minutes or so, but we'd love to hear more about what you guys have been doing. The chat's been alive, as we say, as we do this, but there are people who listen to this on Spotify and on Apple Music. There's more of you these days over there. It's growing, essentially, is what we're saying. Let us know the discussion in the comments of Spotify, or come and join us on Discord and continue this conversation. It's always fun to get different people's opinions on what artwork does. The people in the chat today, there's so many different ways about how to make artwork and what that means for each individual artist. Everything is valid and everything is real. So yeah, let's share it, because it's fun that way.
Yeah, definitely. And if you enjoy cat zoom-ins, head to the Patreon. Help support what we do. It's awesome, and we love our patrons. Last, before we go, what is everyone in the chat up to this week, music-wise? Anything new? Let us know. Got new album in the works? Anything like that? I know Lars is dreaming about cassettes. Sounds like Smiling Airs is a fan of cassettes as well. Very interesting. I'll read this little bit from Thomas, and then I want to hear from Curtis. But let us know in the chat what you're up to. Thomas says, I think it's much easier to get a natural looking result when I feed the prompt with real photos. You can actually do the opposite, get Midjourney to translate a picture to a prompt. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I've asked ChatGPT, the new one, the 4040, that like new update or whatever, like, oh, I want to make a photo. Can you help me design a prompt? And it wrote like this prompt. And I tried it in Copilot, and it was decent. Lars says, trying to get a sample for you guys before I have to leave town. Yes, we want to hear what you put up. It doesn't have to be long. I mean, it needs to be a little more than a one shot, because others are doing some things and stuff like that. But yeah, whatever you got, Lars, by that deadline, just send it over. It'll be fine. Because remember, someone's going to flip it and add stuff and do whatever. So I wouldn't worry, whatever it is. We'd love to hear everybody's samples. Thomas has sent me some crazy samples before of pianos and things like that. So Thomas, if you've got a second to make a sample for that secret sample challenge, that could be very interesting by June 3rd. Curtis, what are you up to this week?
It's a good question. I'm working for the majority of the weekend, engineering and doing some lighting. It's a theatre production, as they say.
Ooh.
So it'll be a lot of that. In the studio, not sure. Oh, yes, I will be learning about the push to.
Ooh.
The school I work with, or work at, I should say, we've just taken delivery of a load of push twos for electronic music class next year.
Yeah.
Which we're starting and teaching about Ableton and stuff like that. Ableton sent us across a load, which is really cool. So I'm going to be learning how to use push essentially
Wait,
because I don't
Ableton
really know.
sent you them. Did they send you 2 or 3?
Sent us five
No, I'm sorry. Push 2 or push 3?
push twos, push twos.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting. That's exciting, man.
it is. Yeah, really excited for it. And these kids are going to get to sit down. They're all going to have a copy of Ableton 12. They're going to have a push, and they're going to learn how to synthesize and to make beats in Ableton. So before I teach them that, I've got to learn how to use a push myself. So that's going to be the majority of my weekend if I'm at work anyway. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Ooh.
Looking forward to it actually. Yeah. How about yourself?
I am going outside with the SP and a guitar.
Good on you.
Yeah,
Hell
so
yeah.
the goal
Okay.
I have a track I made a remix of a track for the remix album. I think I talked about it where I like didn't even listen to the song again and just tried to make it. And I was like, I need promo for the album, and it could be really interesting because I have a Creek sample, right? So I'm thinking if I can get to a Creek and live loop a performance with the Jazz Master and the SP, because the SP's got that really easy to use live looper. So I'm like, ooh, maybe I can make that for quote content. But yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
I'd like to see that. See
Yeah.
that. Um,
I don't know if
so
that'll
yeah.
be, I think I'm gonna scout out this week at places and then film it next week. But yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Get out in the world. I know it's been intense at your end. So yeah, getting out into nature, trying around, exploring, having an adventure sounds like what you need.
Yeah, that should be fun. It should be fun. And we got
Mhm.
some people in the chat saying what they're up to. So Smiling Earth says, I had time cleared for the sample challenge, but have to wait. I'll be writing my own track instead. Yes. Yeah. We won't get this. We're waiting till June 3rd to get the samples. We want to have them all before we start distributing them, but we'll distribute them by the 12th, probably sooner. I've been putting them all in a folder. We just have to then kind of figure out a way to fairly get them, like give everybody an anonymous one and things like that. Lars says he's going to one shot sample him slapping himself across the face. Again, we need something longer than a one shot, so you got to do at least 4 to 5.
Pull stretch. Pull
Yeah,
stretch.
well, I was gonna say do 4 to 5 and then Paul stretch it. That's the way. And Smiling Earth says we do need video for that. Paul stretch slaps. Yeah, that I mean, yeah, you know, whatever works. Yeah, we've got some really cool samples. I'm excited. I still have to make mine. I think Curtis still has to make his. And then we'll see what Eonlake can whip up. I'm gonna make sure he gets something in for that one.
Yeah, maybe a stem or something from his new album, maybe.
That's what I was thinking, but then
Yeah,
some people would know. Yeah.
exactly. One final time, as it's such a beautiful album, and because the man himself is not here, Audionautic Records.bandcamp.com. Eonlake's brand new album is out today, both in digital form and in physical form. I'm going to put a link again in the chat.
You got one in the description too?
I have one in the description there for anyone watching back. Yeah, there's one there as well. Go have a listen. It's really good fun. Show the man some love. He deserves it.
It's definitely an album meant to be listened to through, but the tracks work on their own for sure. I'm not saying they don't, but it makes a lot of sense when you listen through it. Awesome album. But that's it for the show. Head to the Discord if you want to keep hanging out and talk. We've got the Patreon channel where we'll be talking. If you've got any questions you want to ask Eonlake, the Patreon channel is the place to go, and we'll bring it up in the interview with him next week. And yeah, we do have the playlist. I updated it with a few songs, but I got to do a proper update. We still got to get it to Tidal, but it's there on Spotify if you want to listen. We're getting close to like 600 followers on there. So if you like chill independent electronic music and want to help support artists on Spotify, head to the link in the description. And yeah, we'll be back next week, 11 a.m. Pacific. And until then, you'll find us in the Discord. With that, Curtis, anything you want to add?
Just say thank you to everyone tuning in and chipping in with the chat. Time is precious. Not everyone has a lot of time. So the fact that you come and spend that time with us is wonderful and amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I also want to ask everybody, if you don't mind when the video ends, comment it if you want, because like I said, commenting really helps the algorithm, but let us know in the chat or let us know in the Discord. We did start the episode without the intro music. And while we like having the intro music, we find when it comes afterwards, we can't edit it for about a day. YouTube takes forever to allow the editing. And so, you know, you lose potential views because people see the intro and they click off, even if we put the timestamp. So we tested out just going live. And I don't know if we even caught the beginning. I gave it a minute to let it go, but I'd be curious if you guys liked us starting right out the bat, or if you prefer the intro music, but we'll take it into consideration. But like I said, it seems with the algorithm that time Curtis made the mistake and just went live. That seemed to work pretty well. So this time we did it with purpose. And we weren't all taken aback by it, but I'm curious to hear. So yeah, if you want to help, let us know. Comments, let us know in the comments. Lars says, just go right in. All right, man. That's one. Yeah. But yeah, comment in the go in the comments, preferably, but chat's cool too. But we're gonna end so the chats won't show up. But if you can comment it, let us know. Thomas says the chat is dynamite. Yeah. Smiling Girl says, get rid of the countdown clock. All right. Yeah. All right. So we just need to know if we started right. I'm almost wondering maybe having like a 5-second countdown, because the issue is when we hit go live, we don't actually know the exact second we're live, and there's some delay. So I mean, we could just have silence for like a second, like I tried to do today. I'll see when I watch back. But yeah, let us know in the comments. It'll help us a ton just to know there, because when I end this, the chat might disappear or something. So if you could just hit the comments and let us know what you think, about the video, but the countdown timer and all that, and we'll be there. With that, I am going to end with the countdown timer, and you'll just have to listen and hang out with us in there. But I think the ending's all right. It's nice to give thanks to all of our patrons and all that, because you're the reason we can do this. So with that, we'll see you next week. Thanks a ton.